In 1933, America was introduced to the Lone Ranger. It started as a radio series. The stories of a Texas Ranger Native American warrior fighting for justice in the West captured our imagination. Their adventures were later turned into a television show and several films. Now, Johnny Depp and Armie Hammer put their stamp on this iconic piece of American folklore. Here is the trailer for The Lone Ranger.
8 men rode into canyons. I dug 7 graves. The men you seek think you are dead. Better to stay that way.
You want me to wear a mask?
Justice is what a man must take for himself.
Buenas tardes, chiquitas.
We gotta go! Yeah!
Dead.
Not yet.
It was a ranger riding a white horse. Got some lunatic Indian with him. They coming for you.
If these men represent the law, I'd rather be an outlaw.
He's coming for you.
I spoke with Johnny Depp last week about his latest role, his career, and his life. He just recently turned 50. Excerpts of that interview aired on CBS this morning. Here is my conversation with Johnny Depp in its entirety.
Thank you for doing this. It's good to see you.
It's great to see you, man, as always.
Tell me about this movie, and Tonto, and how you see him.
The film, I mean, you know, when when Jerry Bruckheimer and I first sat down, I showed him some photographs that I'd taken, just on my own, you know, with my makeup artist, Joel Harlow, and a photographer friend, as a kind of a test of what I believe the character should be, and I showed him to Jerry, and the film was dead in the water at that point, and suddenly, you know, things started to come alive. Disney
dead in the water because there was skepticism about.
I think dead in the water because Disney just didn't want. I think at the time, you know, prior to any of the budgetary dilemmas we ended up having, Disney at the time just, you know, they had their, you know, fingers in other jars.
This was before or after Pirates?
This was after Pirates.
Wow.
Yeah, after Pirates. And I just had this idea, you know, I just saw this guy as this kind of very, you know, interesting sort of warrior. And there was I saw a way to tip the cliche of the portrayal of Native Americans, you know, tip that cliche on its head, just flip it round. And I strongly believed in it. And, you know, the great thing is that Jerry Bruckheimer, the folks at Disney, Gore Verbinski, when we all sat down, you know, and the writer Justin Nathan, we sat down in our think tank, you know, what's the story? First and foremost was these people must be respected. These Native Americans, these human beings need to be respected. They need to be treated with dignity. And that was first and foremost. And then the entertainment sort of part came later, you know.
But you remember watching Tonto as a child?
Oh yeah, was a big fan. You know, was a big fan. You know, watched the black and white series with Clayton Moore and Jay Silverheels, and loved it. But always, I mean, even at the ripe old age of 5, 6 years old, I was always somewhat perturbed at the idea of Tonto being a sidekick. You know.
And this is the time for you in this portrayal to rebalance that understanding of him and the relationship with the Lone Ranger.
Indeed. So that therefore the Tonto is really the kind of in a way the gravity of the movie, the gravity of the film, and he is in this film, there would be no Lone Ranger without Tonto. So that's the kind of turn that we took.
Take a look at this. This is Rolling Stone magazine, but there you are.
There he is. Yeah.
There he is. And take a look at this. You know this photograph.
Yeah, that was the inspiration.
That was the inspiration.
That was indeed the inspiration. I saw that. I was kept thinking about the character, and I ran across that image online.
Yeah.
And thought. Immediately, I was struck by the lines going down his face, because it appeared to me that as if the man had been cut into quarters. You know? And there were the various sections of the man: the personality, the rage, the damaged child, the this, the that. You know, so
you could see all that in the face.
That's what I felt, you know. And then I thought, oh, that's great. The bird's on his head. Oh no, it's not on his head. You know, it's flying behind him. And I thought, well, it should be on his head, of course. You know, as his spirit guide. You know, as Tonto's sidekick in a way.
Does he fit into other characters that you have portrayed?
I think so. Yeah, I think so very much. I think there's a, you know, if there's one sort of monofilament that you know that connects them all, it's that still that same theme of, you know, what is considered normal, you know, what is considered outside, what is considered inside, what's considered strange, what's considered, you know.
Yeah, you have famously said what some people see as normal, you see as weird.
Most things that are considered normal and that are very well accepted in life, I'm fascinated by, because they just seem like odd things to me. You know.
I remember when we first started talking about maybe 1998 or so. You said you'd see your future as a character actor, and it's turned out quite different. I mean, you do characters, but you became this huge international star.
There was a fluke misspelling somewhere along the way that I wasn't involved in.
A deviation in the road.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Well, the good news is that, I mean, you know, certainly, you know, once pirates hit the streets, it you know, life changed for a lot of people involved in that.
How did it change for you?
Well, I'd already had a kind of, you know, I'd been around for a while, so you know, I was somewhat used to the loss of anonymity and you know, the sort of, you know, I suppose reclusiveness that goes along with that. Or you
said, living life as a fugitive.
In a way, you know, and that's really when it became apparent that things were radically different. That was when it was like every move, you know, every time you left your house, you know, especially with the kids or whatever, everything had to be strategized. It was almost like a, you know, military strategy to get you from point A to point B, through the kitchen, down the stairs, you know. And then, somewhere along the line you realize, wow, I mean, it's really is not unlike
Will you at some point say no to all that?
I don't know if I can, I mean, I don't know if you can say no now. Yeah. I think no is probably not an option anymore. I don't know, you know.
But I would think this is the best time of your life right now. I mean, first of all, you've got your kids, which is the thing that's changed your life.
Yep.
And secondly, you can do what you want to do.
To some degree.
Pick and choose.
Yes. You know. Yeah, to some degree. I think that even, you know, even now, you know, when presented with the image of Tonto, Disney were struck by them. But I think that when we went into production and they saw what was what I actually looked like really fully, I think that they were a little bit worried again.
They had more doubts.
And and that's sort of that. That's the kind of stimulus, you know. I mean, it's stimulating for me. I find if somebody's a little worried about what I'm doing, then I think I might be doing it.
You must be doing something right.
Must be doing it right. You know.
If they're not worried, you're worried.
Yeah, absolutely. If I don't see some sort of panic or fear near me, then I get worried.
Yeah. Well, were you worried when you turned 50?
No, you know, it was like, I mean, it was just a wake up. It's another day, you know, and everybody makes a deal about, you know, the idea of, 50, you know, half a century and stuff like that. It felt like 40 to me. It just felt like another decade, really.
Yeah.
You know. I suppose the only thing at 50 you can really start to look forward to is just total irresponsibility.
Irresponsibility or responsibility?
Total irresponsibility. Yeah. As you get older, you know, you can just sit in a chair, can't you? You can wear anything you want. You know, you can walk down. Old people dress cool. You know,
Yeah,
they wear sweatpants. You know, the elderly have it down.
Somebody once said to me, when I became 60, I used to care about what people thought of me. Now I only care about what I think of them. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I remember Marlon distinctly saying, you know, he reached a certain point in his life where he just finally was able to utter the words, "I just don't care." And the way he said it to me was, it was like it was as if he attained nirvana. Yeah. You know. What
did he mean, or does he mean to you, Marlon Brando?
Marlon Brando, I mean, he means everything to me. He was a great friend, a great mentor, a great teacher, a great father, one of the best friends, one of the funniest people I've ever known. Yeah. And I was so lucky to be welcomed into his life. And again, like spending time with a person like Marlon, who has such wisdom, what's great is when you're with that person that you know is so special in your life, and you're aware of how special that time is. That's the great thing that I carry with me. But I think about him every day. Yeah. Every day I hear him.
He worried a little bit about you working too hard.
Yeah.
He said what?
He said, how many films do you do a year? And I said, I don't know, it depends, you know, maybe 3. He said, too much. I said, what do you mean too much? He said, we only have so many faces in our pockets. You know, and I thought,
you got it.
It makes sense, man. Like, you know, you run out of characters.
Yeah, but he did tell you to do Hamlet.
He did. He practically begged me to, he said, just drop out of Hollywood. Just walk away for a year. Just take off. Go to London. Study Hamlet. Play that part before before it's too late. Because he said, I never got a chance to play it. You know, so it's one of those things that, you ping pongs around in your head for years and years, and you do get to a certain point where you go, am I a little long in the tooth to play Hamlet now?
No. So when are you going to do it?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll play Marlon. When are you going to do it?
Exactly. I don't know, boy. It is that cliched dream of an actor, to play the Dane. It really is. It's one of the most beautiful.
All you have to do is tell them you want to do it.
The stage would have to be so far away from the audience at this point.
Hunter Thompson. What did he mean to you?
Again, everything. Very similar to Marlon, but from another angle, as you know, a very different angle, but wise and hilarious, and again, someone that I knew that time was very special.
What is clear with you that attracts or brings my respect? You care about friends
deeply, sure.
You're deeply loyal to friends.
Yeah.
And there's a certain strain that runs through them. I mean, they are real, authentic people who seem to march to their own drummer.
Indeed, yeah. I've been so blessed, in that sense, from, Marlon to Hunter to, my great friend Patti Smith, to my great friend Keith Richards, to Al Pacino. I don't know why I've been this lucky, but I have.
Are you still learning about acting?
Oh, I think you learn every time out of the gate. I think that's the thrilling thing about the process, is that every time you're out there and you give it a shot, with a character that might make people a little nervous initially, especially people with their wallets involved. It's the process itself is a gas, and you're out there trying to do something different each time, because your main responsibility, I think, as an actor, aside from serving the script and the author and the director and whatnot, is to the audience, which is to not bore them. Try something different each time, and each time you try something different, you're stretching out a bit.
What's interesting is you find a hook too. And with Jack Sparrow, it was Keith.
Keith was Keith was most assuredly one of the main ingredients in Captain Jack, yeah.
With Tonto, it's this photograph.
Tonto, it's the photograph and the sort of idea of dissecting the
multifacets of it.
The multifacets of the man, the warrior, the child, the desperate, need to avenge his dignity, his integrity,
It's also interesting how you prepare for a role. I mean, you're a big reader.
Yeah.
Buried my heart, a wounded knee.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Sure.
All of that to inform you about the context of a character's life.
Just in terms of studying what, I mean, because it's a subject that I've been fascinated with for years. It's a subject that Marlon and I spoke about.
And he spoke at the Academy Awards.
Yeah. He sure did, in a very interesting way. It's been something in my life that's always been fascinating to me. So to really learn, when you read, say, Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States, and you realize that the human beings that were here who were doing just fine before then. Columbus thought he'd hit India, and therefore called them Indians.
Right.
And we're still there.
And then there's Trail of Tears.
The Trail of Tears, the moving westward, the forcing these people off their rightful land, forcing these people to abandon their ways and go to Christian church and dress up and wear tie. I mean, it was practically genocide. I mean, just a genocide of a people. And so when you have a character that in a film like The Lone Ranger has to carry that gravity, but at the same time entertain.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting tightrope.
I mean, it's possible that what happens on the screen with you in Lone Ranger, playing Tonto the way you do, trying to recreate the nature of the relationship with the Lone Ranger, recreate the warrior that he was, not some second banana, so to speak.
Indeed.
You may change the ideas of young people living on Indian reservations.
That's my hope.
Really?
That's my hope. That was really all of it for me. It was the idea is that if there's some way that I can come up with a character that's interesting enough to people, to kids especially, but to people, if I get 10 kids, 20 kids off a reservation who go, you know what? I didn't listen to the elders. I want to listen to the elders. I want to keep my heritage alive. I want my culture to live on, and I want to know my language. I want my language alive. If 20 kids grab hold of that and stick it in their pockets, I'm feeling good, because that is going to multiply and multiply and multiply, and that's good.
Self-image is everything.
So I'm hoping that kids will be able to feel that. Yeah, I'm not what they've said about me for the last 200 years. I'm not lesser than. I'm a warrior, and that's. Then I think I did my job all right.
What have kids meant for you?
Kids?
Your kids?
My kids? Everything.
What do you mean?
Everything. They've certainly made me grow up. That's for sure.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, they made me.
You mean take responsibility, or?
Well, no, just as they sort of progress throughout life, and my son, my boy Jack, is now 11. Yeah. My daughter Lily Rose is 14. You start getting hit with some very interesting situations in life. As a parent, when they approach that teenage arena, which is frightening because you still have memories of that age and the things that you might have been doing at that age. So, you can.
And you lay awake thinking, God, I hope they don't do what I did.
Oh God, but please don't do what I did.
Yeah, but I mean, it really does make getting up in the morning for you. Absolutely.
No, I learn from them every day. You know, there's such wisdom in those children. In that, I mean, look at the life that they've led. My children have had to live like fugitives. You know, in a way. I mean, I'm not.
The paparazzi's there. The
paparazzi's always there. You know, my daughter goes shopping, and the paparazzi are all over. You know, that's an ugly thing. If it's on me, I'm not going to complain because look, I'm here in the ring. But the kids didn't ask for it, you know. But I learned from them because the way that they deal with it is, it's no big deal, Dad. You know, don't worry about it. You know, they're so grown up about it. And while I'm raging, you know, they're like, don't worry, Pop. Yeah.
They're the calming influence.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they got, I mean, you could explain and talk to them in you know, the split from their mother and having to come, which is always unpleasant regardless of what happens.
Always. But they, I mean, my kids, and Vanessa, by the way, you know, I mean, it was a very sort of calm moment because we'd arrived at a place, as people do, where there's no room, when you have children, there's just no room for lies. There's no room for anything but the truth. It's not anything other than that is a bad example, I believe. So, I mean, obviously there are ways to smooth things out, but I mean, we were just very truthful with them, and they were incredibly understanding, incredibly accepting, and
love you both,
and very grown up about it, and understand that there's no love lost anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just the way things. This is life. This is a part of life, and I was extremely proud of them. You know, the way they dealt with it.
Music too. When I think of you as a guitarist, Patti Smith did that wonderful interview and said, "Wherever I go, there's a guitar."
Yeah.
Music is what you wanted to be.
It still is my life. It always was. It's just I just don't do it for a living anymore, you know. But music for sure was and it still is my first love. And it's funny because it's just been over the last couple of years where I've started to have the opportunity to play more and more, whether it's on a friend's record or get invited to go and play a show with someone, do a few songs. It's all started happening in the last couple of years, and it's been a gas because it's my natural habitat, really. You know, is to have a guitar strapped to me.
Yeah, but when you played, you didn't want to be the vocalist. You wanted to be the man in the shadows.
I wanted to, exactly. When I was, playing clubs at, 15, 16, 17 years old, even then I was, trying to stay out of the lights. Tried to stay in the darkness and just play my guitar.
Now, is any of that still part of who you are, the sense of...
Most definitely.
Really?
I still, the idea of being that lead singer, of being the front man, to me, when you're in a group or a band, is
So you'd rather be Keith than Mick?
I'd rather be Keith than Mick, indeed. Yeah, that's that's what it boils down to. No disrespect, Mick.
Yeah.
None whatsoever.
Exactly.
None whatsoever.
Be a good vocalist is fine with me. I just want to be back there.
Great. I can't do that. Don't want to. Yeah.
So look ahead at 50 to where the priorities are. What are they?
I think now in this if at 50, let's say the start of a new decade. I think the goals are. A little bit more based, maybe slightly more selfish in a sense. Not selfish, but that search for a little more freedom here and there. Maybe a little less work, a little more time with the kids. A little more freedom, a little more time off. Just more space, more ability to. Yeah, breathe and not, have to be the novelty.
What's interesting about you too, you work with directors more and more. I mean, how many Tim Burton and you have done?
7 or 8, I think. Yeah.
In this film, the director
Gore Verbinski. I think it might be our fifth
or sixth. Yeah.
Something like
what
that.
is that about? Just simply finding a place, a zone, a comfort.
Just it just so happens, the relationship between Tim and I, over the past 20-something years has really blossomed into a kind of a very unique and interesting partnership. Though I go off and do this and he goes off and does that, we still come back together. Gore, same thing. He's a masterful filmmaker, and he's not afraid to try anything. And I've never seen anyone just keep it together. He holds it all together so incredibly well under that pressure.
Patti Smith said about you, rebellious as Rochester, as loving as the Hatter, as ill-behaved as Jack Sparrow. Does that fit?
I'll take it. That's sweet of her. That's very sweet of Patti. I don't know. I think there was a director I worked with one time who said, "Come on now, it's time to get serious." And I remember looking at him and saying, "Really?
Yeah.
Well,
please don't.
You're going to turn a camera on. We're going to go out here and lie." Yeah, we'll do whatever. But essentially, what this is play, isn't it? It's playtime, And if we're stuck to some sort of rigid, box, then you're not going to get anything. The only way to get anything is to get out there and have a ball,
I couldn't agree more. There is also this, though. I mean, when music was your first love, and then acting came, and then acting flourished. Do you have some sense now that this is what you were here to do?
I tell you, I've always had the sense that somewhere along the line, a radical turn was made, and I wasn't at the wheel necessarily. From the transition from musician to actor was abrupt and confusing. Because you're talking about. There is something to be said about the camaraderie and the safety of a group, of a band. You got 4 or 5 guys or whatever. When it's you out there on your own suddenly, and people are pointing, and you're not the most extroverted guy in the world. It's a real shock to the system, because suddenly people are pointing at you and not the lead singer.
Exactly. But if they point at you and ask, is there a pattern here in the characters he's chosen and the values he seems to reflect, what would you say?
I'd say if there's a pattern, it's an exploration of the outside, or the outsider, or what's considered the outsider, or the underdog, or the damaged, and those are the things that I find interesting about people. The great thing, Hunter said this a lot as well, and it's the same thing for an actor. Hunter, as a journalist, his most important sliver of his job was to observe, and at a certain point, he could no longer be the observer. He was being observed, and my whole world is about observation. Watching people and learning their tics and why do they do this, and that's an interesting way to sort of phrase something, or that's I watch people constantly. So watching him and literally living with Hunter, you understood Raoul Duke. I sponged. I lived with Hunter in his spider-riddled, gunpowder, filled basement for months on end, and I sponged him, and I told him, I am sponging. I'm sponging.
I'm soaking everything up.
I'm soaking everything up.
He committed suicide at 67.
Yep.
And famously left a suicide note, it is said, I didn't see it, that after 50, and almost as if, and I didn't understand that.
No, Hunter felt he'd lived like 30 years too long.
Yeah, 17 at least.
Yeah, he just felt that, you know...
27.
Exactly, and he was at that point. And, you know, for those of us who knew him, we knew all along that would most likely be the way he would go. So it wasn't... I mean, it's always a shock, but it wasn't that much of a shock. What it was just devastation, because a whole universe was that you were connected to has been lopped off, and you know you'll never get those 3 a.m. calls anymore, and you know, or the mad, you know, driving through the hills in, you know, Aspen, you know, the tinkling of ice and scotch and madness, you know.
Yeah. Connie, thank you. It's been great to see you.
Charlie, it's great to see you as always. I look forward to whatever.
All that we do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.